Hello and welcome to the 30k channel dedicated to games set in the Horus Heresy. I'm your host, David Brains, and we are joined by veteran, 3-game veteran,
third game today.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Excellent, very good. And first timer, we have Tom. Good morning.
Hi, how you doing?
Great. Now, really excited for this. We have never done a night battle on the channel, unbelievably. So, and you two have brought some beautiful knights, haven't you?
Yeah, he's brought some big ones.
He has brought some big ones. But hopefully your numbers will do you justice.
Yeah,
You've got the speed.
I'm hoping so. I must admit I'm a little bit nervous when they all came out of the boxes, but should be fun.
It's going to be a hell of a game, I can guarantee you that. Now, quickly, before we get into it, now, obviously, we know Morgan from the channel. This is his third appearance, but Tom, we both met Tom, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
At the Scribes of War event about 3 months ago, I think now.
Yes, it was midsummer at some point, or a little bit earlier.
In Stratford. So we are all familiar with each other, and I saw Tom's Knights and I thought, we've got to have those on the channel at some point, and it's finally happened 3 months later, but we've got there in the end. So, and you,
me.
Pleasure. And you brought some beasts, haven't you?
Yeah, I've loved Knights since the day I first saw them. They came out and I wanted them, and then ever since I've just been, as soon as the Lancer was here, I wanted that, and as soon as I saw the Casters class, I thought, yeah, I'll have that.
The Casters is one hell of a kit. I mean, just the fact of sticking it on the table, it's a beast and a half, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, you put a Warhound next to it, and there's not a lot between them.
Yes.
They are very similar.
Yeah, they are super cool. And now obviously available in Adeptus Titanicus scale as well, which is unbelievable, which is all very cool. Now, Morgan, let's have a quick chat about yours. You've got a ton of little, are they Helverins?
Armigers.
Armigers,
I've got 3 Helverins here and 3 Warglaves on the other side.
Yeah. I mean, I almost imagine a Porphyrion just stepping on those little bad boys. But...
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about.
But you've got speed though, haven't you?
Yeah. Luckily, these guys, with the rules that they've got, they can move and shoot in the shooting phase. So hopefully we can get a few pot shots off and get out back into cover, or vice versa.
Yeah, you'll push those angles, make you work on my covering shields.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, exactly right. And I did a board build video for this game. So if you watch all the way to the end, you'll see the board that I've built. And I talk very much about knight armies, because I think it's one of those forces, you at a 3k game at a tournament or a friendly tournament, and you come across that 6-knight list, and the blood drains from your face, and you're like, oh my god, what am I going to do? But you've both got that sort of force, so
yeah. Hopefully, it should even it out a bit. Like where we've got firepower on one side, we've got a bit more manoeuvrability on the other. So
I kind of feel it's actually, we're going to talk all this, and then it's just going to be a big smash up in the
middle. Yeah.
I think that's what's going to happen. There's going to be chainsaws going and battle cans booming, and we'll be away.
I think it's very much about what Tom said about exploiting that shield and forcing multiple fronts on a knight, and then it's the overlapping fire lanes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Getting around that ion shield and getting into the side armour.
Best way to avoid an invulnerable save is don't let them have it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. It's fair to say though that Tom has a huge amount of firepower, but I've built the board in such a way where, you know, once you make your way off onto the board, you kind of set on that track for the rest of the game, because you can't double back. So I think the game might be won from deployment and where both of the knights kind of set off at the beginning of it. Maybe not so much for Morgan, maybe because he's got a lot more manoeuvrability with those little armigers. They've got that little extra punch, haven't they, for the movement?
Yeah, they have. I mean, the board's looking fantastic, and with the way that the terrain's all laid out there, is going to be quite helpful, hopefully, to have those line of sight blocking pieces in there, and hopefully they can use those to an advantage getting around the board. But like Tom says, I think once that first shot's fired, it's just going to be bedlam.
We'll find out. Now let's talk a little bit about the knights and the households that you've gone for. Tom, let's start with you. What sort of scheme and household have you gone for?
It's a sort of a homebrew scheme. It was one of the knights in the original artwork that I quite liked the look of, and I was trying to emulate it. I didn't know the name of it, so I went with my own and built my own kind of house, essentially.
Great.
Very Mechanicum themed, very from Mars, and all glory to the Omnissiah.
Great. And you've named your knight households
House Crontus.
Crontus.
Yeah, all my knights do have names as well, apart from this guy who has yet to earn it.
Oh, maybe we can think of a suitable
Yeah.
Arminger Slayer, or Stepper of Death, or something. I don't know.
The names are on the heraldry somewhere painted. In
You've actually done it on as well.
Oh, the little banners on. The names are on there somewhere. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I love my knights. They're very kind of personal to me.
Yeah, well, I think the beauty of knights is that because they are such large models, and you only get 5 or 6 in a list, you can really go to town with that extra kind of naming. And
especially the Forge Wheel kits as well. The the little GW plastic ones are beautiful, but the GW kits are so nice to pose. You can do so much with them. You can create so much movement in them and get them so dynamically posed. You can really have fun.
Yeah, you can definitely see that in the Castigator you've got there. He's stepping on the plane there, the Dark Eldar plane.
Yes,
it looks really cool. Very cool.
Yeah, my friend's dog to thank for that.
His
dog chewed his plane and sent it to me and said, "Do something clever with it." So I did.
Repurposed, we like it.
Absolutely. So thank you, Lex's dog.
The Omnisire will be pleased. Morgan, let's talk about yours. What do we got?
House Terran household. When the Knights first came out, I built and painted up a Freeblade, and then got the Codex later. Walked through and thought, well, Terran looks like it would fit quite in with the Ultramarines, which you've seen quite a few times.
Yeah.
So that was it. Had one of them painted up. Got another one. Got another one. Got another one. I think total collection now we've got the 6 armigers. I think I'm up to 8 or 9 Knights knocking about somewhere. That's but it's never finished, is it? Any project's never finished.
No, I mean you've got all the Shrasta chassis and the Akasa chassis to keep going. You can go forever in a day. And you see a lot of these Titan musters all over the country, don't you?
Yeah. There
was one recently at Warhammer. I can't remember the name of the house.
Was it?
Tyrannus, that's it. Because for me, there's a couple of... There's the Tyrannus, which is the red colour scheme, and there's this one, Terran, which is the blue. It's a classic colour scheme.
Absolutely.
Looks very cool. Let's talk a little bit about the mission. What we've got is... trying to read my notes in front of me. We've got Onslaught and Vanguard Strike, and we're fighting over a Promethean derrick, I guess, or a storage facility. Both of these knight households have raced ahead of their armies behind them, Sicarans and Rhinos and Tac-Marines, whatever, to secure that old derrick, to keep them going into the next campaign, I guess. And the knights have been sent forward to kind of smash the hell out of each other and secure the derrick or the storage facility. So hopefully that will come across in the game. I think it's going to be a really, really, really interesting game. You've got these knights kind of stalking through this kind of facility and the rocks and the barren landscape around. The best use of terrain will be will go to the victor, I think. But we'll see. Gents, I say this to everyone, but I generally am very excited. Absolutely love it. Let's dig into their lists, find out exactly what they're comprised of, and then we'll see you at the beginning of turn 1.
3,000 point House Terran Questoris Knight army, led by a Seneschal with the Warlord trait Indomitable, giving the Knight Warlord It Will Not Die special rule. The Knight Seneschal, equipped with an Avenger Gatling Cannon, Ironstorm Missile Pod, Melter Gun, and Thunderstrike Gauntlet. As a Knight Seneschal, he gets +1 to his weapon skill and ballistic skill, and his invulnerable Iron Shield save is increased by +1. First troops choice is a Questoris Knight Warden, armed with an Avenger Gatling Cannon, Melter Gun, and Reaper Chainsword. Second troops choice is a Questoris Knight Armiger Talon, all armed with Dreadnought close combat weapons, thermal spears, and have auxiliary Melter Guns. Third troops choice is a Questoris Knight Armiger Talon of 1, armed with Armiger autocannons. Fourth troops choice for the House Terran list is a Questoris Knight Armiger Talon with Armiger autocannons and auxiliary heavy stubbers. First fast attacks choice is a Questoris Knight Paladin, armed with the rapid fire battle cannon with built-in heavy stubber, auxiliary heavy stubber, Reaper Chainsword, and Icarus autocannons. This is a Knight Dolorous who must charge if he is able. First heavy support choice for the Terran household is a Questoris Knight Crusader, armed with a rapid fire battle cannon with inbuilt heavy stubber, auxiliary heavy stubber, Storm Spear rocket pod, and an Avenger Gatling cannon, which also has the inbuilt heavy flamer. This is a rank of an Arbalaster, which means that he gains a Tank Hunter special rule.
3,000 points of House Krontus, a Questoris Knight Crusade army, led by Red Wrath, with a Warlord trait of Favoured of Mars, granting him a mastercrafted shock lance. The HQ for Household Krontus is a Knight Seneschal with a Knight Lancer chassis,
He's equipped with a Serestus Shock Lancer for both melee and ranged, and the Seneschal grants him +1 to his weapon skill, ballistic skill, and facing on the Iron Shield invulnerable save. The first troop choice is Indomitable Heart, a Questoris class Knight Crusader, with an Avenger Gatling Cannon, Heavy Stubber, Storm Spear Rocket Pod, and Thermal Cannon. Second troop choice is Omniscia's Repugnance. He's a Scion Marshal, a Serestus class Knight Acheron, wielding an Acheron pattern flame cannon and a Reaper chain fist. Rounding out the troop choices is a lone Questoris Knight Armiger Talon with Armiger pattern autocannons and a auxiliary heavy stubber on the carapace. Filling the elite slot is an as yet unnamed Knight Preceptor with a Questoris Knight Dominus chassis, wielding a Conflagration Cannon, a Thundercall Harpoon, 2 twin-linked melter guns, a twin-linked Siegebreaker Cannon, and 4 Siegebreaker missiles. The Preceptor rule grants him access to firing Overwatch, and also anybody within 6 inches of him may also fire over Overwatch. The heavy support class is Ruin's Bastion, a Scion Arbalaster, and a Castus Knight Porphyrion, wielding 2 Last Cannons, 2 Magna Last Cannons, an Iron Storm missile pod. The rank of Arbalaster grants him the Tank Hunters and Weapons Calibration special rules.
Tom Morgan, we are deployed and ready to go. There is a ton of knights on that board and they look absolutely impressive, don't they?
Yeah, really keen to get this going, bring some knights to a night fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, who won the roll-off to go first? Was it Tom, was it?
No, it was Morgan.
Yeah,
oh, sorry, Morgan.
I won, but I opted to go second.
Ah, that was it.
Yeah.
Okay, but you're keen for a siege now. You've seen where it's all gone.
It would be helpful.
All right, well, let's have a friendly handshake, gents.
Good luck. Yeah.
Good luck to you both, and let's see if we get a siege.
Right, let's big dice, big rolls. What's a 2?
So it's House Krontus to take the first turn.
Krontus turn 1 movement. The Acastus has advanced ever so slightly around the edge of the table just to draw a bead on those advancing House Terran Knights, freeing up a little space at the back for the Acheron to build some speed and hold the flank. The smaller Armiger has just pushed in using the cover of the rocks from the refinery to stay out of sight, whilst the remainder of House Krontus are just forming a battle line ready to try and repel House Terran's assault. House Krontus, turn 1, shooting phase, starting with the Acheron, pulling a massive 17-inch move on his flank speed to really push hard on that flank. House Krontus Armiger has pulled a 12-inch move to support the Acheron using his long stride special rule. Okay, Ruin's Bastion opened fire for House Krontus, the Porphyrion unloading everything it had on the Knight in front of it for Knight Terran. Both the last cannons struck true, but the Knight's Iron Shield held fast, reflecting both. Then the Magna Cannons lit up, again scored 4 direct hits, but again the shields held fast, only letting 1 pass, causing a sole hull point. Red Wrath has pushed forward using flank speed, only a few inches, just to try and hold that corner and defend it. House Krontus Crusader opened up, again on the same Knights, targets previously, hitting with the Thermal Lance, but not causing any damage, rolling a 1. Let loose 3 crack missiles, again failing to wound. Then the Avenger Gatling Cannon span up and peppered it with shots, but are still failing to wound. House Qantas Knight Valiant has opened up on the Helverin, the wounded one, letting loose with the Shield Breaker missile, hitting squarely and causing it to be immobilized. The Rapid Fire Battle Cannon on the top also let loose, but failing to do any damage due to a save. House Qantas Knight Valiant opened fire, the Shield Breaker missile hitting the Armiger at the front squarely, causing a whole point of damage and causing it to be immobilized. It followed up with the Battle Cannon on the top, but that failed to inflict any damage. At the end of the turn, House Qantas are looking fairly solid. We'd hope to do more damage, but House Terran's shields proved too strong.
House Terran turn 1 movement. The Armiger Warglaves have started to stride forward, hoping to make a flanking manoeuvre down the right flank. 3 Questoris chassis have moved slightly to the left of the flank. The immobilised Helverin has to say where he is, but his partner has pushed forward, taking some shade underneath the rocky outcrops, and the other Armiger has moved to the left slightly, hoping to also walk around and lend his support to the oncoming bombardment. Finally, the Knight Paladin, Dolores, has moved forwards, hoping to get a bead onto the Carastus Knight. He's looking to charge him down and bring him with his Reaper Chainsword, crashing to the ground. House Terran turn 1 shooting phase. One of the Armiger Warglaves has fired at his full ballistic skill, but unfortunately missed, while the other 2 use their long stride special rule to push forward, then snap firing their thermal spears into the Carastus Knight, and unfortunately both missed as well. The Armiger Helverin, who used his long stride special rule to move forward, snap fired with one of his Helverin autocannons into the Knight Gallant, unfortunately missing with both shots. The House Terran Knight Crusader has fired with his Storm Spear rocket pod, unfortunately not causing any damage to the Knight Gallant. Then the Avenger Gatling Cannon opened up, again not causing any damage at all, but the Rapid Fire Battle Cannon managed to penetrate the shields and take 1 whole point. The House Terran Warlord concentrated fire onto the Knight Gallant, firing his Avenger Gatling Cannon, managing to rend but not doing any further damage to the Knight. Taking his Liege Lord's example, the other Knight Warden also unleashed his Gatling Cannon into the Knight Gallant, again rending, but both rends and both whole points of damage being saved by the Iron Shield. The Knight Helverin unleashed his 2 Helverin autocannons into the enemy Warlord, hoping to take a couple of hull points of damage. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, and the enemy Warlord remains unscathed. The Knight Paladin, Dolores, is hoping to charge the enemy Warlord in the combat phase, but before that he wants to soften them up a bit, so fired 2 rapid fire battle cannon shells, one unfortunately missing, the other hitting true, but saved. The Icarus autocannon on top thought it would try its luck as well, needing 6s to hit. With its reroll, it got 2, but unfortunately didn't manage to score any penetrating hits or glances. Terran turn 1 combat phase. The Knight Paladin is looking forward to charging the enemy Warlord. With it being a Knight Dolores, we do get to reroll the charge if we don't get it off in the first turn, so we're looking for an 8, rolling it, and we've got a 5. So tension for the reroll, hoping to score an 8. And we've got a 3, so unfortunately the Paladin is sitting there waiting for the oncoming storm. End of turn 1 for House Terran. Good first turn. We've survived a lot of firepower coming into us. Really wanted to get the Paladin into combat just to take the fight to the enemy, but it hasn't come off. But I think we're sitting pretty good for the returning fire that's due to come our way any second.
Turn 2 for House Qantas, starting the movement phase. The Knight Acheron, torn between being aggressive or being defensive, has opted for the former. He's pushed forward to get his flamer in range, probably expecting a countercharge next turn, but he just wants to set fire to something. The small little Armiger is sneaking around, taking cover from his 2 larger brethren, looking for that objective, whilst his 2 bigger boys clear the way. The Knight Porphyrion has sidestepped rounds, trying to decide whether to target the Armigers or see if he can get a shot onto the enemy Warlord at distance, unsure yet. House Qantas Warlord Red Wrath, never to back down from a challenge, has squared up against the enemy Knight, who dared to aggress him. supported by the Knight Crusader, who's looking to pick a fight with that annoying little Armiger. Out on the flank, the Knight Valiant and Gallant, both pushing heavily into the House Terran Knight advance. Turn 2 for House Krontus. Shooting phase begins. The Armiger has pushed forward using the Long Strider rule to park itself between the two larger knights and snapped off 2 shots at the enemy Warglaive, causing no damage. The larger Acheron, who was torn between being aggressive or defensive, roasted the enemy's Warglaive, causing a glancing hit for a hull point. The Warlord Red Wrath opened up on the enemy Paladin with his shot lance, spitting out 6 shots, hitting him in the face with just the 1, but it's enough to be concussive and causing a hull point of damage. The Knight Valiant for House Krontus, trying to clear the path for the Gallant, has opened fire with everything it has on the Warglaive that's in the way, loosing fire with the Harpoon, the Melter Guns, the Conflagration Cannon, the Shieldbreaker Missile and the Battle Cannon, but only causing 2 hull points of damage. Indomitable Heart, the House Krontus Crusader, has opened fire on the enemy Helverin with everything it has on the Carapace, 3 Stormspear missiles, the Thermal Cannon and the Avenger Gatling Cannon, immobilizing it, causing 2 hull points of damage and stunning it. Indomitable Heart, the House Krontus Crusader, has opened fire on the Helverin with everything in its arsenal, firing 2 Stormspear rocket pods missiles, the Thermal Cannon and the Avenger Gatling Cannon into it, stunning it, immobilizing it and causing 3 hull points of damage. The Porphyrion for House Krontus has lit up the Warglaives with his last cannons, but failing to cause any damage whatsoever. But seeing a sneaky side shot on the enemy Warlord, it fired all 4 Magna Blasts onto the side armour, causing 4 penetrating hits. Intervening cover saved 2 of them, so we took out 2 hull points. Turn 2, start of the combat phase for House Krontus. Red Wrath, the Warlord, has charged straight into the enemy knights, not wanting to hold back. He's hit him hard in the face with a Hammer of Wrath, lots of crumpled metal, but no actual damage. Swinging his mastercrafted lance, he's landed 3 solid hits, so now we need to see what damage we can cause. Oh, we've got a devastating hit in there and 2 solid hits. That's going to be painful.
So it's gone. It's taken.
Yeah, that's going to be an
6 plus
explosion,
D6.
I think. Yeah.
So he is going to explode.
6 plus D6. We'll roll it anyway, so we know. That would have been 7. And then the death would be D3s. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Glory to the Omnicia. Rolling on the catastrophic damage table. Let's see what we get.
Oof.
It's a Titanic explosion. That's danger close. The Titanic explosion caused a massive fireball, but Red Wrath is a paragon of war. He's been fighting for years, so he contemptuously kicks the enemy knight backwards, scattering it 11 inches, causing the Warglaive to take a hit, which was saved on the shields. Then, full of battle lust, he consolidates 4 inches to hold the breach. The Knight Scion, being a Dolorous class, had to charge, so went into the enemy Helverin, causing a hull point on the Hammer of Wrath, and then finishing it off with the Reaper Chainsaw. No explosion, just leaving a smoking ruin standing on the table. At the end of the turn, it's been a solid turn for House Krontus. We've taken an enemy knight from the field and ruined one of their scouts. We're in a good position. Let's see what they can offer back.
House Terran, turn 2, movement phase. The Armiger Warglaive Talon has started to split up a little bit, with 2 pushing forwards towards the Krontus lines, and the other taking a left hook, hopefully pinging up the side of the enemy Warlord. The 2 immobilised Helverins haven't helped matters with movement around there, but the Warlord's managing to sneak around one of them to get a bead on the wall of the enemy Warlord, while the Knight Crusader and the Knight Warden are pushing into the Krontus lines on the left flank, hoping to manage to turn the tide in that quadrant. House Terran, turn 2, shooting phase. The 2 Armiger Warglaives on the right flank fired both thermal spears and 1 melter gun into the approaching Knight Archeron. Unfortunately, it caused no damage, and there were a couple of misses in there as well. The other Knight Warglaive managed to target the enemy Warlord. Unfortunately, its thermal spear missed. However, the melter gun sat on top, managed to hit, then penetrate, and cause 3 hull points of damage with its penetrating shot. The first Armiger Helverin fired at the enemy Warlord. Unfortunately, because it was stunned from the previous turn, all its shots missed. However, the Armiger Helverin behind, also targeting the Warlord, did manage to find the mark. However, its shot was saved by the invulnerable shield. The House Terran Warlord aimed at the enemy Warlord, hitting its side armour multiple times but with not enough force to penetrate. The other Knight Warden in the Terran list fired at the Knight Gallant, which was rampaging through the Helverin in the previous turn, managing to chip away 1 hull point, and the Crusader, taking his lead, also fired, taking a single hull point from its Avenger Gatling cannon. House Terran turn to combat phase. The Knight Crusader has decided to charge forward to the enemy Gallant in hopefully a productive combat over in the corner. The Warglaive that previously fired and took 3 hull points from the enemy Warlord fancies his chances in combat, so he strode forward with a huge roll, getting into base-to-base contact, and the foremost of the Helverins closest to the Archeron also made a big roll, getting forwards and entering combat with the Archeron. The combat between the Knight Crusader and the Knight Gallant, the Crusader waded in with his Hammer of Wrath, unfortunately not causing any damage at all, and then struck with his Strength 10 attacks, causing 2 hull points worth of damage, taking the Knight up to 5 hull points of damage. The return attacks were very sturdy, causing 2 solids and 1 devastating hit on the D table, so we'll get back to you with the results shortly. The catastrophic damage took out the House Terran Knight, but the D strength inner circle on the apocalyptic template took off the last hull point from the Gallant, which also exploded. Unfortunately for the Terran, it didn't scatter onto his own knights, and it did go harmlessly off the table. Combat continues with the Armiger Warglaives. The Armiger Warglaive, striding into the enemy Warlord, had 3 attacks, swung wildly but hit with 1. Unfortunately, it was saved against the enemy Warlord's shield. In return for the pesky attacks from the Armiger, the enemy Warlord brought its spear to bear and cut that knight down like there was nothing there at all. So unfortunately that Armiger, brave as he was, has been fallen. Against the Acheron, the Warglaive again strode forward bravely, wildly swinging his cleaver, causing 1 hit, which did cause damage. Unfortunately, it wasn't a big roll that we hoped for, but we have scored 1 hull point. The Knight Acheron, in return, caused a massive 23 hull points of damage to the poorly little Warglaive, which, needless to say, has exploded him away, which means that the House Terran lines are currently looking a little bit thin. 2 Questoris Knights left, a couple of Armigers knocking around the place. This is going to be time to hunker down and weather the storm that's undoubtedly coming their way.
Start of turn 3 for House Qantas, movement phase. The battle lines in the middle have started to overextend, so we've just decided to reform, strengthen that line again, take a breath, see what to do next. The Valiant, the Crusader and the Warlord have all stepped back just to hold that line and just see where we need to push on. We've left the left flank open for the Acheron, the Acastus and the Helverin to sweep round. We're going to remove the Warglaive from play hopefully this turn and consolidate our position, dominating 2/3 of the table if all goes to plan. Start of turn 3 shooting for House Qantas. The Knight Acheron set fire to the Warglaive, but causing no serious damage, only superficial burn marks. The Armiger Helverin opened fire on the other Helverin at the other end of the table, spitting lots of bullets but causing no actual damage. The Knight Porphyrion also targeted the Helverin with 2 last cannons, punching a shot through, failing a shield save and causing it to lose its final hull point and die. The Magna Las Cannon blasts all targeted the Warlords. 3 straight hits on the body, 1 scattered off to also catch the Helverin behind, taking a whole point from the Helverin and 3 from the Warlord, 2 from the Warlord, 2 whole points from the Warlord. Indomitable Heart for House Krontus lines up the enemy Warlord, opting to fire every weapon at its disposal into the front facing and see what happens. 3 crack missiles launched, roll 3 ones, so epic fail there. 3 rockets go totally astray. The Gatling cannon winds up, spits out a hail of fire, causing 2 penetrating hits, one of which was saved on the shield, the other went through for a lone hull point. But then the thermal lance hit squarely, causing a massive explosion, taking the remaining hull points out from the enemy Warlord, though the resulting explosion caused no damage as it scattered away from everybody. Final round of shooting for the Knight Valiant, opting to fire a shield breaker missile and the battle cannon into the Helverin. All went wildly awry, causing no damage whatsoever. Turn 3 combat phase for House Krontus. The Acheron made the charge into the Warglaive, doing no damage with the Hammer of Wrath, but carving a whole 9 hull points out of it in a resulting combat. The Helverin, in its dying breath, stabbed back, causing a hull point and some serious leg damage, just for oil and blood everywhere. Then I'm going to consolidate 4 inches towards the centre of the table. Okay, end of the turn for House Krontus. A couple of good shooting, a couple of high damage rolls, really turned this totally in our favour now. House Terran are on the ropes. I think it's going to be damage limitation for them. They put up a good fight, but let's see what they can get done in the last turn, because it's still a scoring game.
Turn 3 for House Terran, movement phase. The only knight that isn't either dead, smouldering wreck or immobilised is the Knight Warden, which has moved 12 inches down his flank, hoping to get some shots off at the enemy Warlord, as will the Helverin, who is still targeting, although immobilised, and still in the line of fire for that Warlord. So 3 hull points left on him. Hopefully we can chip some of those away now. House Terran turn 3 shooting phase was a complete disaster. The Helverin, with his 4 autocannon shots, couldn't hit the Warlord with one of them. The Knight Warden, with his Avenger Gatling cannon, was a little bit more accurate, hitting 4 times. Unfortunately, the Wrens weren't forthcoming, so all those rounds that were hitting it just pinged harmlessly off his iron shield. So that is the end of the House Terran turn 3.
Turn 4 for House Krontus, start of the movement phase. Still having to think a little bit carefully. There's no point losing the Warlord at the start, so both the Valiant and the Crusader have elected to move round and put pressure on the remaining Knights, whilst the Warlord has stepped back a little, trying to use that firepower that's pinking off his armour. No point risking those shots sneaking in. On the far side of the table, the Acheron is pushing hard to get a flanking move, whilst the Helverin is sitting on the objective, and the Porphyrion, once again, is lining up those big guns to bring the pain. Turn 4 for House Krontus, shooting phase. The Acheron has pushed hard with its 3d6 advance move, looking to get in and really tie up this edge corner. The Helverin targeted the remaining Knight, firing off 4 shots, hitting and penetrating with 1, but then the Iron Shield save repelled the shot. The Porphyrion lined up, fired 2 last cannons to no avail, then hit with all 4 twin Magna last blasts. 1 hit and 1 pen and 1 glance was resulting damage, so 2 hull points taken. Indomitable Heart, the Knight Crusader, unloaded everything on the opposing Knights. 3 crack missiles doing nothing, Thermal Lance doing nothing, but the Avenger Gatling cannon sneaking out a penetrating hit for a single hull point. The Knight Valiant opted to fire everything it had on its chassis at the remaining opposing Knights, loosing with the twin battle cannon, the conflagration cannon, 2 melter guns, and the harpoon. Everything hit, everything wounded, everything was saved. The only thing that did any damage was the shield breaker missile, whipping in and causing a solitary hull point of damage. Still, it hurt, but it wasn't quite what we expected.
House Terran turn 4 movement phase. Again, not a lot of movement with 1 immobile Armiger Helverin, and the Knight Warden has worked his way around the left-hand side of the board. He's angry that so much firepower came into him. He's ready to unleash and take the fight back honourably into the enemy lines. House Terror in turn 4 shooting phase. The lone Armiger Helverin took a bead onto the enemy Warlord. It hit with all 4 shots. Luckily for Sunder, he managed to score 1 hit point of damage, which was saved by the invulnerable shield. The Night Warden, angry, fires his Avenger Battling Cannon into the knight in front of him, gets 5 hits, causes 1 hit point of damage, which is saved by the invulnerable shield, then lights up his melter gun, firing and hitting also, with a penetrating hit, but again that was saved by the iron shield. House Terror in turn 4 combat phase. The Night Warden has charged forward. It has weathered the storm of Overwatch fire due to it being a Preceptor coming back at it, scoring no damage at all, and it's ready to wade in with its Chain Fist after a Hammer of Wrath attack, which took 1 hull point away, leaving it with 6 remaining. Wading into combat with his Reaper Chainsword, he flails wildly, scoring 1 hit, which is a solid hit, causing 3 further hull points of damage, so the Valiant has taken 4 hull points so far.
Okay, in retort, the Knight Valiant fighting Initiative 3 due to the Dominus chassis being slightly slower and having actual no dedicated CC weapons. It just kicks barges and pulverizes with any metal part it's got, causing a lone hull point of damage in return.
End of turn 4 for House Terran. It's not looking good at all. However, the remaining Night Warden is really not happy. He's holding his own. He's been making his saves. So we're hoping that we can at least take some form of solace in the fact that we might be able to fell the Dominus chassis Knight in the next turn. But we're hoping reinforcements will be coming at some point. We'll have to wait and see who holds the refinery.
Turn 5 movement phase for House Krontus. With the Dominus locked in combat against a faster, nastier close combat target, Knights Krontus have decided to just step back a little bit and see how this one plays out. There's no point losing a knight here to a stray explosion should their brother fall. So the Warlord and the Crusader have just backed up to reclaim the objective and just generally stay out of harm's way to see how this combat unfolds at the end of the turn. The Knight Acheron has pushed round onto the rear of this Helverin, who's been peppering the Warlord with fire. We're going to remove that threat this turn. The Helverin of Knight Krontus is pushing in for Linebreaker and just exploring the opponent's half, whilst the Acastus class Porphyrion is just watching on, unable to fire its guns. Turn 5 shooting phase for House Krontus. The Acheron elected to fire everything into the rear arc of the Helverin, the twin-linked heavy bolter doing no damage, and the Flamer doing no damage. Then the Knight Crusader elected to fire everything also at the Helverin. 3 crack missiles doing no damage, the Avenger Gatling Cannon doing no damage, and then the large blast from the Thermal Lance scattering and actually hitting the Acheron and the Helverin, causing no damage to the Helverin, but a hull point off of the Acheron, who's not best impressed. Turn 5 combat phase for House Krontus. The Knight Acheron charges easily into the back of the remaining Helverin and rather contemptuously removes it from play, but somewhat spitefully the Helverin, as a stab back at him, doesn't hurt him, but does hit him. In the combat between the remaining Terran Knights, the Knight struck first at Initiative 4, swinging well, but only hitting with 2 of his attacks, failing to wound with the 1, so only causing a solid hit with the second for a whole point of damage. In retaliation, the Dominus class, being slightly slower and only having 3 attacks, managed to whiff all 3, doing no damage whatsoever. End of turn 5 for House Krontus. It panned out sort of as we were hoping. We feared we'd probably lose the Dominus class in combat, but he's actually stayed. Everything else, much went to plan really. The Helverin was no match for the Acheron in combat.
turn 5 for House Terran. There's no movement in this turn as the sole remaining knight is locked in combat, which wasn't the best of things really. We were hoping to finish him off in that previous combat phase, so we had a clear run into the Crusader in front of him. However, he does get to sit back first at initiative step 4 as opposed to the 3 on the Dominus chassis. So we've got 3 attacks coming in, hitting on 4s. And we've got 2 hits with that one. So now we're looking for the Destroyer table, and we've got 2 solid hits. So they are doing D3 damage each. Let's have a look at what those are. So we've got a 2 and a 3. So we've got 5 hull points of damage on that Dominus, which finishes that one off. The catastrophic damage table roll was a 5, giving it a titanic explosion. So we're going to roll for scatter and see where this blast ends up. So it's a hit, but the small arrow is heading towards the middle of the board, 6 inches, which unfortunately isn't going to clip any of the Krontus knights. But crucially, my knight is clear of the D-strength blast, so leaving him to fight on for another turn. Great combat there for the lone remaining warden. He escaped unscathed from the catastrophic damage that the knight had suffered. He's now consolidated 4 inches up the board. If he can weather the storm that's about to come onto him with his last remaining hull point, hopefully we can get into combat with the Crusader in front of him and try and cut him down as well. Slim chance, but chance is all we need.
Start of turn 6 for House Krontus. Last turn of the game, they're looking to deny the objective from House Terran whilst claiming it for themselves. The Armiger Helverin has stepped back to pick up hit their objective. The Crusader is standing firm, denying the enemy knight from taking it without a fight. The Warlord has just stepped away from any stray explosions whilst the Acherons move round to bring the Flamer into bear on the side armour. See if we can get rid of that remaining hull point of damage in the next shooting phase. Turn 6, shooting phase for House Krontus. All we need is 1 hull point. So that's all the knights have been looking to do. The Acheron in the flanking move got side armour with his heavy flamer and ordnance, still no damage. Looking to draw the combat to a swift end, the knight Acastus Porphyrion has levelled all of his guns at the opposing knight. 2 last cannon shots have hit and been saved. The 4 Magna last cannons of all hit. We have 2 penetrating hits and 2 glances to save. Can you make it?
So look, so what do you want me to take first?
Please take the glances.
So first glance, he's saved.
Oh, he's saved.
Second glance.
Oh, there's the whole point.
That's it. That's it. There he goes.
He snuck through. End of the shooting phase for House Krontus. A great final hit, removing that last knight of House Terran, meaning House Krontus now have full board control, securing the objectives and claiming the refinery for our upcoming reserves who are powering on ahead, trying to get here as quick as they can. But all in all, a good win for the Omnicia.
Well, that was it. We knew it was going to be a devastating game, but I did not anticipate one knight surviving till the end of the game, virtually.
He did all right, didn't he? Shame about his mates, but he was all right.
I have to say, Morgan made some amazing rolls when he needed it. It's just a shame he didn't get those 5 and 6s on those penetrating rolls, the AP1, AP2. But what a thrilling game.
Yeah, I mean, night fights, they're always big, they're always bloody, and they always tend to go one way.
Yeah.
I've never had a close one.
Yeah, it was a bit wild. Tom, I think you did a pretty good job.
Thank you.
You had a lot of firepower, which we knew you had.
Yeah, I brought some bigger guns. I knew I wasn't going to be fishing for the 5s and 6s, unlike Morgan.
Yeah.
I mean, if the dice had gone his way at the start, it could be a very different story.
I believe so, yeah. I think it was really unfortunate that those Armigers just didn't get a break, did they?
I mean, they were a bit brave on one respect, a bit foolish maybe on another. But when you get 2 of them immobilised pretty early on, that kind of limits it. And unfortunately, where they were on the table as well, it was a bit blocky for the knights behind it. So getting around mobility suffered for that. And the Wargazer were just impetuous and young and silly.
Yeah, but you throw them forward, see what happens.
It's exactly what they should be doing.
Absolutely. Get them in there, and if you don't charge, you're not going to make any combat attacks. So you need to be in there, absolutely.
I really enjoyed that, though. It was thrilling. It was just amazing to see those models kind of manoeuvring around that larger facility and just knocking the hell out of each other. It was really, really cool. We will do the scores. I think it's obvious who's the winner. Obviously, Tom won because it was an absolute wipeout, but it was quite a thrilling game. It was really fun. That Porphyron, it didn't do as bad as we thought it did, as well as we thought it was going to.
Yeah, I mean, no one was going up against it. It was kind of half expecting a Knight of turn to go, and it didn't. And after that first turn, I think, was it 1 or 2 hull points or something?
This is the thing
off.
with Porphyrion, it's a lot of points. That's a big model.
Mm.
But it's more of a psychological attack on your opponent. They
Maybe.
look at it and they go, oh my, I need to avoid that. And you can almost bully with it without even firing a shot.
Yeah.
And like you said, you were worried before you didn't see it on the table. Actually, when you start seeing dice, it's no slouch.
Mm.
But it's not as big as
But
you
it's
think
not
it's going to
terrible.
be.
Yeah. I mean, roll a couple. It's 4 dices. One of those is a 6. You're in trouble.
Yeah.
That's today. I didn't actually get any 6s
Yeah.
on the Magnus, so it kept the damage limited.
I think in normal games, when you're shooting to against Sicarans, Rhinos, and 20-man Tap Marines, whatever, I think then it probably will be a little bit devastating. But in the sort of night game, it perhaps wasn't as bad as we thought it was going to be.
You aim those 4 large strength 10 AP2 blasts against Terminators, and your opponent doesn't like you very much anymore after.
I guess the other thing as well is, though, if you are playing a normal game, we've got all the sorts of shenanigans of a Termite with some Melter Vets in there, or a Drop Pod with some Melter Vets, and that's a different sort of game then, because you're getting behind the Porphyron or whatever. But I think it worked really, really well here. It kind of stalked around that facility.
Absolutely. Knights on Knights, it's a different style of game. You're not worrying about your infantry deep strike. You're not worrying about something appearing from outflank or getting behind you. You're simply worrying about what's in front of you and how best to get rid of it.
Yeah. Super cool. Now, you brought back 2 model each. Morgan, let's start with you. What have you brought back?
Well, it had to be the Warden, who was the last man standing. I know we didn't record a lot of the saving rolls, but this guy was bossing them left, right, and centre. I think it must have made 15 or so saving throws easily, and it was impetuous at the end. You know, it took that Gallant out, and not the Gallant. Sorry, it did the
Crusader.
Dominus
class.
Dominus
Dominus class.
That's the one. Yeah.
Dominus class, yeah.
So he did well in that one. I mean, it would have been great if we daisy chained those D strengths all the way down his line and took 3 out for the price of 1, but it wasn't to happen.
It does happen in games, though. Yeah, so the game that I talk about in the ball build in this video, I did 2 knights in a turn just by 2 shots from a Cryos, and it just bomb, and then it exploded, flipped, and then 6 the other one out. So, Tom, what have you brought back?
I've brought back my my Warlord. Not necessarily the most damaging unit on the table, but I love the Lancer. As a Warlord, it gives it that extra save in combat, which saved it when we did have combat. And he led from the front. He was in the centre of the table, picking fights. He backed away at the end after he was down to half strength, but he strode to the middle of the table, said, "This is mine," owned it, and then backed away when it's safe to do so. He's just leading from the front. Thanks very much. That's where he was.
He was quite good, and the lance shots that he gets off, I didn't realise that they're concussive as well. And you used that to good effect as well, didn't you?
Yeah. It was helpful, obviously, with me charging helped. It just gives you that edge, because when all you have is combat, especially because you have to shoot what you want to charge. You've only got 1 gun. You can't be quite so selective, so you've got to make sure you kill what you aim.
Yeah. It's a very much a single focus model, isn't it?
Yeah, but it is a night killer, and it killed.
Yes,
and it's my favourite of all the Cerastus chassis. It is my favourite.
I also think as well it's one of the most animated ones, because a lot of people build them like tucked in behind the shields, holding out the
style, Spartan-esque. Yes, this is Sparta, and
or we see some really dramatic ones with the because you can put the sword, the lance thing the other way, and it's super long and it's good and pokey, and it's just a really cool dynamic sort of model. But
I might have to invest in a few of these chassis now, because they're great.
They are lovely. They're so dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have I seen you got a Castigator on the way? Is that you or
Knight Castigator? I've got the Castellan.
The Castellan. Sorry,
I'm tempted with an Atropos as the next one. Castellan's getting built at the moment.
Get a Porphyrion.
Get
a Porphyrion.
Because
they're so cool.
It's tempting.
They're beautiful.
I actually think the Porphyrion, or Porphyrion, however you want to pronounce it, is better than a Warhound. And we talked about the scale, but the weapons, because they're new and they've been updated, and the Warhounds kind of haven't, I think the new Knights coming through are perhaps better than the smaller class of Titans.
Possibly. Yeah, and it's just nice to have the household of Knight.
Yeah.
Which again, harking back to the game we just played, you very rarely get to see. It's short outside of a large apocalypse game with your friends. You don't see this many Knights on the table.
No. I think there was 17. Is that right?
Yes.
I brought down. What did I have? I had 10.
Yeah.
That was
Six,
awesome.
6 for me and a little helper.
Oh, that's right.
17.
Yeah, 16, 17. Now, I've taken a ton of photos from this game, so when the game is released, please go to the Facebook page and you can enjoy all those lovely, lovely photos. I understand there's a few shout-outs to go, so Tom, should we start with you? What do you got?
First off, I want to give a quick shout out to my local gaming group, the guys, Code 40k. Cracking guys, really nice to play with. They were nice enough to accept me into their group, and now I'm nicely known as Bristles. So thanks for that, guys, and it's nice to game with you, and look forward to more games. Also, if you've seen my nights and you like what you see, please check out my Instagram page. It's mar_baker82 on Instagram, or my Facebook page is Battered Bristles. I do a lot of painting, and I'm just trying to push myself at the moment and see what I can do. I take a little bit of commission work, but I'm really busy at the moment. But ultimately, I'm just playing around, having fun with paint. If that thing interests you, please come have a look.
Great stuff. Morgan, what you got for us?
I think big shout out has to go to Liam Hearn at Phoenix Commissions, who's done all my Questoris nights for me. He's got a few more there. Great work, great artist, does some brilliant stuff, so check out Phoenix's work. Another big shout out has to go to Adam Turner at Twisted Bristles. Without him, it wouldn't have happened today. He saved us with getting the Helverins ready in time, and the Warglaive. So check out his feed as well, Twisted Bristles on Instagram, Phoenix Commissions. And if you want to have a look at what I'm up to, it's Glory the 13th. There's a bit of Alpha Legion shenanigans going on at the moment, so
they're looking good.
Check it out and see what they're all about.
Great stuff. And then finally, you've got Purple Sparkly Unicorns.
Yes, Purple Sparkly Unicorns. I've not played with these guys long. It's a group I found up in Cheshire, based out of Shavington, if you know the area, near Crewe. Really welcoming bunch of guys, do a lot of Sigma stuff there. But they're more than happy to put AT out or 30k, 40k tables. Really great bunch of guys. So yeah, check them out.
Great stuff. So all of those Instagram tags will be on the bottom of the screen there for you to take down and go follow. That'll be fantastic. The final thank you has to go to these two gents. They started very early this morning. I think you were up at sort of 6, weren't you?
Yeah.
Travelling in the car, lots of miles. And we have finished a little bit early, so that's really cool. So we'll get them fed and watered and then we'll get them on their way. So gents, thank you so much for your efforts.
Thank you. Cheers.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun.
Good, and we will try and get these gents back for. I think they've enjoyed themselves, but we don't
as always.
It's the third time in a go, but hopefully we can tempt Tom back for another game, maybe. But,
Absolutely,
we might be able to follow up the scenario because remember these knights are racing ahead to secure that pipeline or that storage depot, and the forces are following up. So we might follow up from there, but we'll see.
Absolutely.
Again, thank you.
Cheers. Thanks, David.
Cheers. Thank you, David.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next game. Hello everybody, I really hope you've enjoyed that game between Tom and Morgan. You know, as always, I film these board build videos before the game is filmed, before they turn up. So it's about 7 o'clock in the morning, nice and early, because I was really scratching my head about what board to build for these two guys. All I know is that there is a ton of knights coming. I think there's like 4 Armigers, a load of Questoris, maybe a couple of Cerastus, and then obviously the big Porphyron. So there's a lot to think about because I was really concerned that the knights were just going to storm over the table and chop each other up and explode each other, D each other off the board. And maybe the Porphyron would take a bit of a backseat and just fire downrange with those 2 massive twin-link guns. So to that end, I really wanted a board that exploits the manoeuvrability of the knights. So they've really got to work hard to move around this board to get at each other. But also as well, I really wanted some height. Obviously the Porphyron's quite tall and the knights have really great field of fire. So I wanted to make them work to get into position for that kill shot. But also as well, you know, the knights have their ion shield. And I always struggled against knights in the past, but I was at a local tournament recently at Imps Gaming in Lincoln, a nice shop they've got there, really well stocked. And my first game, I think it was my first game, was against a guy with 6 knights. And I instantly looked at his list and went, oh, that's it, I'm done. But I thought, well, hang on a minute, you know, fighting spirit and all that. I thought about it and I went, bomb, I know what to do. And I was lucky, I'm not bragging, but I was lucky that I think I tabled him by turn 4. And I think I lost a couple of Cryos and about 4 Thalax. I think it was 2,500 points. So maybe there was 5 knights. I can't quite remember. But one thing I realised, my point is, when I was playing him, I realised you need to get into the side armour and the front arc of those knights to force your opponent to make decisions about where their ion shield is. So if you can put equal firepower on either side, they have to choose one side. And with the high strength, low AP that the Cryos battle tanks have got and the multi-melters from the Thalax, I was able to kill a knight a turn. And in some cases, I killed 2 knights a turn. So really, really good. So what I'm getting at here is that I need to force Tom and Morgan to make decisions about where they're going to go, because once they start a course on this board, they're not doubling back. So they've got to be confident they know where they're going. And then that will give the other opponent opportunity to exploit that Ion Shield facing, because that is ultimately what saves knights. If you take that Ion Shield away, they're quite easy to take down. So to that end, I knew to make such a board, a city fight just wasn't going to cut it. And it had to be some sort of deserty kind of stuff, which is kind of my forte, really. So I came up with a refueling station, like a Promethean refueling station. So we've got 2 massive Bowsers here, presumably full of Promethean or oil or whatever you want to call it. We've got a crane to help loading the crates and the things. We've got a couple of pipes, and we've got this really large station built into a rock face, and then we've got 2 really, really large blocks in the foreground there, and that will really force the players to move around. I must admit, I've built most of the big structural stuff, and then I realised, oh wow, I should do a board build video. So here we are. So I'm a little bit late with it. On this side, which you can't see, there's a really sheer wall, which I really like. And what we'll do is we'll put a ton of sand on this side just to give it a bit of a drift to it. And same again here, we'll drift this side in with the sand, but you'll see that when I do it. I'm probably not going to add much more to the board. I might just level this off a little bit and put one of the green riser pattern as like an office, like a quartermaster's office for the issuing of fuel. And then I might try and think of some sort of delivery system. I don't really know how I'm going to do it because I haven't really got the models for it, but it'd be nice to have a sort of designated station where a knight or a vehicle would stand or in a bay, and then they would run a hose out and then stick it in the side of the Sicaran battle tank, or the I would say probably knights have a reactor, don't they? So they probably don't have a requirement for fuel, but maybe their supporting units would require fuel, and the knights have been sent off to kind of defend the oil derrick or the fueling station from the opposing player. Then the rest of the force will catch up and refuel. That's kind of how I see that in my head. Hopefully that comes across. So what I might do is I might put another Zone Mortalis tile here, but I didn't really want to encroach too much on this side of the board because I didn't want it to be like a zone board or anything. So I'll have a think about that. I'm not quite sure. And then after that, really, I'm just going to put some more crates littered around the area and some barrels of some ammo crates. Maybe some pipelines coming off here just to give it a bit of interest. I know the knights aren't worried about that at all. It's more about the manoeuvring of the things themselves, because they ignore obviously terrain and stuff. So yeah, that's what I've got in my head. You've obviously seen the finished board. I haven't yet, so hopefully it worked and it produced a great game. But all I'm going to really do is fiddle around and chuck a ton of sand on the board. I'll come back to you once I've completely finished. Right, obviously this board needs a lot of fiddling. I have at home built a platform for this to sit on, but it's not painted. That would have been ideal because then I could have supported it underneath with the struts here, but it would have looked a lot better. There's some massive gaps around the back here. There's a gap around here. It looks terrible, I'm not going to lie. But once I start to put this sand on, it will drift into all the holes and they will never be seen. So one saving grace about using sand, I guess. I think for me that's done. The main focal point is here, and these are just outlying rocks, so I'm not too worried about the rest of the board, if I'm honest. It's just a case now of dumping a load of sand on here. I might add a couple of little touches towards the end, but other than that, we'll just get on with it. Right, there it is. I could have done with probably another half a bag of sand. I think there's 3 bags on here, maybe, or 2 bags, but I could have done just another half, just to kind of smooth this out a little bit more and put some more, just to put a little bit of drifting on this side. I appreciate you can't see it, but I'll get some photos or do the army show, the battlefield video. You'll see it then. So I could have just done with a little bit more here. I opted not to put the additional tile in front because I think it just takes up too much space. But I kind of like how compact it is, and it's merged into the sand a little bit. I think it's going to be a really interesting game to see, as I said, stuff walking around. One thing which I would have liked like a little satellite dish here, or some sort of tower communications array, just to further reinforce the height. So it's almost like it's the highest point in the land for the signal to get out. That would have been a nice touch to have here. But other than that, I'm really happy. And the only other thing I thought I could do is I've got the chimney stack rather to go on there. I might just stick that on with a bit of blue tack, just hold it in place, and that would just give the whole thing a little bit extra height. I might be able to find it. Oh, look at that. Oh, no. No, I can't find it. I thought I might be able to find it quickly just to show what I mean, but I think you get what I mean. So I might just pop that on there, or maybe on that one. I don't know. I think that one's better because of the height. Other than that, I've got a load more of these little stone chips just to sieve out from the last game. I had a black sand game, so I've got a few more of those to dig out, which I shall do very shortly. And I'll just scatter them around, particularly around the edges here. I know it's grey rock, and this is grey with flecks of orange in it, but it will give the illusion. I don't think no one's going to criticise me for the different coloured rock. I have got a load of these to smash up for that very reason, because when it splinters, it gives a bit of it's more elongated shards, whereas the slate is kind of longer, flatter, wider stuff, whereas this stuff chips up in longer pieces, which works quite well. But it's another job for another time. There's a lot of things to do on the channel. And smashing up rocks with a hammer is not one. I think it was corporal punishment at some point. Other than that, the board is done. I really hope you've enjoyed this board build video. I haven't done one for a little while, so please let me know your thoughts. And I think you'll agree, it's a pretty good board. I really, really like it. I think it's one of my best. Sounds a bit self-promoting, I know, but it's really what sets the channel apart from anything out there on the internet right now. And also, I think it forces the players that come to the channel, they've never played on a board that's laid out like this or looks like this, and they have to think differently because they're used to just pure Games Workshop terrain or MDF terrain or other manufacturers, whatever they've got out there at home, and it's a different prospect of playing on something like this than it is to the stuff you probably have at home. Anyway, I'm waffling now. I'm going to stop. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.